Hello everybody, in today's video we're going to be going over your hyperactive tropics. We currently have three disturbances out in the Atlantic. We have potential tropical storm Nana, which is currently tropical depression 15. We also have potential tropical storm Omar, which is currently potential tropical cyclone 16. And then we have our next storm, which is currently named disturbance number 2 over west of Africa. So we currently have three different disturbances out in the Atlantic, and we have a lot more to come that are currently forming off of Africa and will move on to the Atlantic. So we have very active tropics, and we're going to be going over both potential tropical storm Nana and Omar in today's video. So let's get right into it here with your National Weather Service page. We have red flag warnings in effect for the northern plains. We also have, believe it or not, some frost and freeze warnings and watches in effect for parts of Idaho, northeastern Nevada, and western Wyoming there. And that is where you could have temperatures as low as 25 degrees overnight over the next couple of days. We also have heat advisories in effect for a little portion of Oregon and California there, as well as excessive heat watches in effect for parts of Nevada, Arizona, and California. We also have some heat advisories in parts of Texas, Louisiana, Arkansas, and Mississippi, and some flash flood watches and a slew of warnings over parts of Oklahoma and Arkansas just because of a stalling frontal boundary that's just been sitting throughout this area over the past few hours. That's really been putting down quite a bit of rainfall. Other than that, we don't have too much in the way of warnings and watches, especially for much of the eastern United States. Looks clear right now. The real action is out in the west. Now, here is the current 5-day graphical outlook from the National Hurricane Center. We have tropical depression 15 there, which is currently off the shore of Cape Hatteras there. We also have potential tropical cyclone 16, which they'll soon be making actual forecasts on that from the National Hurricane Center, so we'll be able to get quite a bit of information once they start making those updates on them. And then we have disturbance number 2, which currently has a 40% chance of developing within the next 5 days. So here is where what tropical depression 15 currently looks like. It is quite disorganized right now. We do see some sort of circulation, which would be right in here, and it has a good spin to it. It just doesn't have a defined area of circulation right now. It's just a broader area of disorganized thunderstorms and high cloud tops. So right now, nothing that's too organized, and right now, the National Hurricane Center doesn't actually bring this to a tropical depression, although it's pretty much a 50-50 chance on whether this one becomes a tropical storm or depression. It really doesn't matter which one it does. It would just knock off another name, because this will not impact pretty much any land masses. All it will do is bring some rough surf to parts of the mid-Atlantic and northeast coastal areas. Now here is currently where tropical depression 15L is. It's at 34.4 degrees north by about 73.8 degrees west, with maximum sustained winds of about 30 knots, and also it has a minimum pressure of about 1008 millibars there. So it does have very close to tropical storm strength right now, and it looks like it's gonna intensify a little bit before weakening as it moves through colder waters to the north. Now here's the cone of uncertainty forecast from the National Hurricane Center, and they are keeping this as a tropical depression and moving it eastward and just kind of kicking it out into the Atlantic, and it's not going to pose too much of a threat to any land masses. Now here is the tropical storm force wind speed chances, and we have about a 20 to 30% chance of that. I think this should be up to about 40 or 50%, because I do think it's a pretty much a 50-50 shot on whether the storm can actually attain winds before it starts heading into the colder waters to the north here. If it can actually attain wind speeds over 35 knots and become a tropical storm and kick off the N-named storm. Now here is the model track guidance for this storm, and most of the models bring it north and then northeastward out into the Atlantic, again not impacting any land masses. Now here's the GFS ensemble models, and they pretty much replicate that forecast. And then here is the intensity guidance from these model guidance, and most of these models actually bring this as a high-end tropical depression, maybe a weaker tropical storm, but it's very borderline, and it's pretty much a 50-50 shot again. So we really have a we have a pretty much a half and half shot of seeing a tropical storm form here. So even if it does, not really a big deal because we'll get the end named storm kicked off because of tropical or potential tropical cyclone 16, which pretty much has a 100% chance of becoming our next tropical storm. It already has tropical storm force winds, and it's just looking for some circulation. And once it gets a little bit of circulation, it'll definitely become our next tropical storm. Now, here is a picture of potential tropical cyclone 16 and the infrared satellite loop. Right now, you don't see too much rotation out of this storm, although it is trying to form some sort of closed circulation right in here. It's hard to pick out. So once that starts to clear out and we start to see somewhat of a defined circulation or low pressure, then we will be able to name this as a tropical storm. The National Hurricane Center is just waiting for this to find some sort of circulation, because it cannot become a tropical storm if it has no circulation. So it currently has those sustained winds of about 35 knots, which is tropical storm force. It's just waiting for that circulation to show up somewhere within the storm. Now, currently it's located at about 16 degrees north by about 76.8 degrees west. Again, sustained winds of about 35 knots, which is right around 40 miles per hour, which is above tropical storm force just barely. And then here's your minimum central pressure. It's currently at 1,005 millibars. So it's weakening, or I mean, it's strengthening. The pressure is lowering, which means that it is strengthening, and it will be heading north of the or south of the Yucatan Peninsula, I should say. Now, here is the model track guidance, and you see it is going to be moving north of Central America and kind of just making a beeline to the west. And it is going to dodge. Originally, these models had this storm back when it was centered right around here. They had this storm kind of moving straight here, and it had less time over water. Now that the storm has more time over water, it's located right here, and most of the models have it going to the north of Central America and having a lot more time over the water. It is going to be able to strengthen quite a bit more. Now, here is the model intensity guidance for potential tropical cyclone 16, and this is currently a tropical storm, or at least it has tropical storm force winds. Not currently a tropical storm; it's currently a potential tropical cyclone. And again, once they find that circulation, it will almost definitely become our next tropical storm. It'll be pretty much a race between whether tropical depression 15 or potential tropical cyclone 16 can get the end named storm. Which one will get named first? That's pretty much the biggest question right now. Now, here is the some of the environmental ingredients for the storm to develop. We currently have some above average sea surface temperatures throughout much of the Caribbean, and also into where the storm is going to be tracking, which is currently within this area. So all throughout the area that this is going to be tracking through, we are going to have above average sea surface temperatures. Now, here is your wind shear in the upper atmosphere, and we do have some fairly light wind shear, and something that's good for this development of the storm is that the wind shear is actually going along with the storm. If the wind shear was going in this direction and the storm was heading in this direction, we would have a lot more difficulty with the storm developing. This wind shear is actually going along with the storm, so this is not going to really weaken the storm, but actually just speed it up a little bit. So it'll have less time over water, but it won't be too much of a factor into whether this develops or not. Now, here is the relative humidity at a few thousand feet up in the atmosphere. Now, we do see a big long arm of drier air that's kind of just sticking to the west of this storm. Here is where the storm currently is by this frame in the European model, and this kind of stick of drier air is going to be moving along with this storm. And so what it's going to happen is that you're going to have some of this dry air kind of entangle with the southern end of the storm, and that is really going to weaken this storm quite a bit. It's mainly going to be that drier air, very, very dry air to the west of the storm that is really going to weaken this. That's mainly because you have a big high pressure system that's just sitting over much of the northern and central Atlantic. So that is really going to be dictating the pattern over the Atlantic over the next few days. So that is going to wrap it up for today's video. Please consider liking the video, subscribing, and turning on notifications, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Goodbye.